husband. And we're going to get to this program. He's got some things to say about the net vets and the state veterans home and other things going on at the Tri-Cities Crossing that you can see on the map that's on your table today. So without any further ado, I'll throw it on.
Thank you. Thanks for gathering us some cash. Danny and I and several others, Carla too, went up to Carter in Unicoi County earlier this week on Tuesday. We're going back up again tomorrow. We're helping them with some projects, but the need is not going to be just for a couple of weeks. It's going to be for years. So we're trying to caution everybody not to burn themselves out, because once the media quits covering it, that's when the need is really, really going to hit. And the politicians quit showing up, et cetera, et cetera. So if you'll keep that in mind as you contribute to other projects. And I want to pitch two of them to you real quick, and then we'll talk about what we're supposed to talk about. One is Region Ahead, which we started with Andy Dietrich and all the chamber execs and economic development organizations in the region during the pandemic. Raised $250,000 that went to grants for small businesses in both state of Tennessee and state of Virginia. Andy Dietrich reached out to me last Saturday morning and said, we need to get this thing going again. We did. Raised a little over $300,000 so far. Beth Reinhardt from the Bristol Chamber is heading up the grant committee. The money is going to it will go to the First Tennessee Development District via Lottie Ryans to their foundation. So after Beth has formed a committee of both Virginia and Tennessee, because they know the businesses in those regions, and that committee will decide who gets the money and how much. And then First Tennessee Development District will issue a check, and it's supposed to happen very, very quick. The grant application's out there. If you go to Region Ahead, and if you need to send the application to somebody, and also that's a good place to send your money. The other one is the YMCA, and I'm not pitching against any other organization. There's so many of them, and we're getting a lot of calls. But the YMCA itself has set up a fund for the hurricane, for those who have been damaged by the floods, et cetera, et cetera. And one of them is going to be used. Some of the money is going to be used to feed first responders that are up there. That are a lot of the money, a lot of the food that's flowing up through there is not going to them. So we're making sure that they get fed. There's also Bristol Motor Speedway has volunteered. If you have supplies you want to bring it to Bristol Motor Speedway, and the team will make sure that it gets to where it's supposed to go. We've got a phone bank set up there that the regional chambers are manning, or womaning. Sorry, Carla. With the idea being that there's so many people calling in that they can't get the calls returned, and so people are getting angry, thinking they're not needed. So that when somebody calls in, we're able to say, "Hey, we love you, we mean it. We can't use you quite yet. Can you just wait just a little while till we sort through things?" And so if you'll keep that in mind, the YMCA, Lori Arnold's the main contact over there. And I will say too, Carla and Danny and several others of us went Monday to go meet with the Gary Sinise Foundation. Lieutenant Dan, and that was fascinating. We walked in on the right here. There's a purpose to what I'm going to say this. Worked on the right as we walked in, and there was the bench, and also the suitcase, and a box of chocolates. So we all took a good picture. But when we got toured around, we're actually going to visit them to ask for support for net vets, which Mitch was going to talk to you about today. But as we walked around, we noticed that they are not just supporting vets; they're supporting first responders. So I said, "Hey, do you know about?" They interrupted me. I said, "Yeah, we know what's going on there. Can you help us connect?" And so that connection has already happened. And one of the things they promised they're going to do once we sort through it all is to replace all the equipment that's floated down the river somewhere. Some of it's already been replaced by an ambulance company, but you're going to hear all these type stories of needs and people helping in the heart of our region, and not just of our region, state of Tennessee, and all across America. Help is coming. In fact, this thing is so big that we're going to start seeing first responders and TEMA and FEMA people coming from all the big cities across the country. So if you'll keep that in mind. Last thing I was going to say about Gary Sinise, I was telling my daughter about this we were trying to get a hold of him during our vacation a few months ago, and she said, "Well, Dad, I know him. She's a television news anchor down in Nashville." I said, "How do you know him?" She said, "Well, I've interviewed him." I said, well, can you connect me? Because we didn't have the connection quite yet. We were working on it through Eastman Credit Union. And she said, yeah. So she starts talking to some of the staff, and the staff says, wait a minute, are you two related? I said, well, yeah, I guess we are. So Gary himself has invited Nikki and I to go down there next Thursday. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to capture. I'm not saying that because I am excited about meeting, but I'm really more excited about the possibility of bringing some cash up this way. So, okay, let's talk about what we're supposed to talk about. You were supposed to hear about net vets. Well, a few months, and you're going to hear a little bit about that, but a few months ago, Mayor of Carter County, Patty Woodby, who needs your prayers right now. We're going to see her again tomorrow, and she's breaking down every time we see her. She broke down in front of the governor earlier this week, but keep her in her prayers, and someday you ought to invite her to speak. She's a fascinating story. But she sent me an invitation to come to the graduation ceremonies of the Northeast Tennessee Regional Recovery Center for both the men and the women. The men was in the afternoon. I said, I can't be there. Tennessee Vols baseball team's playing. At least I was honest with her. But I'll be there for the females, which was in the morning. Well, the event was on Juneteenth, which we were closed that day. So I got up that morning, taking it slow, coming up with reasons why I wasn't going to show up. Started to text. I never sent it. I think it was God reaching down on me and kicking me and saying, get your ass up there to go watch those ladies graduate. And I'm glad he did, because I went up there and it was full of politicians, and there were 10 ladies there graduating. Most of them were missing their teeth, but they were now recovering addicts. And now most of them had jobs. I saw BJ God up there from Johnson City. He owns a company called Right Screen. I said, BJ, you going to hire some of them? He said, I'll hire every one of them if they'll come. He said, they're the best employees I've ever had. So your employers out there, keep that in mind. If you want to talk more about how to have access to them, I'd be glad to do it. Well, I left that event and I called Danny, one of my best buddies. I said, Danny, you wouldn't believe what I just saw, and I explained it to him. He said, well, let me make a phone call real quick. So he calls his staff, calls Carlin, some others, and they were getting ready to pull the trigger on selling some property and also adding more houses. As you might have known, he's probably been 1 million houses up here in the last, maybe not that many, but he and Carla, thank God they're doing that. And anyway, so he stopped his staff, his crew, from doing that because he wanted to hear more about what I had just witnessed. We showed up the couple of days later, and we took Mitch and his crew with him to talk about that property. And it's out near FedEx. It's how many acres? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yes. Okay. So at the same time, you may have heard Keith Thompson talk about us trying to recruit a Tennessee veterans homes. Mayor Scholl just asked me about how the progress we're making. I used to serve on that board years ago. When I rolled off, Major Keith Thompson rolled on. And so I called Keith and I said, hey, is this still going on? He says, yeah, they're desperate for a piece of property. And so I called Ed Harries, who's the head guy down there at the veterans homes. And he knew exactly the property we were talking about. So he showed up a week and a half later to go look at the property. Now, Tennessee Veterans Homes, if you haven't seen one, I encourage you to go look at one. There's 4 of them across the state right now: Cleveland, Knoxville, Nashville, Memphis, and a 5th one's being built in Arlington. They wanted to build one here for us for years, but we never could find the property. Well, Ed knew that's where the property was, so he came up here. So we all met out at this piece of property that Danny and Carla said, and we're going to show you the diagram here in just a minute. Danny and Carla and others said, you know what? This is a prime piece of property, and they're willing to donate it so that we can have a Tennessee Veterans Home. Now, keep in mind, Tennessee Veterans Home, that would be about a $150 million project, about 200 jobs, and 100 and some odd beds. It's a place where someday Pat Scholl and I can go in there and they'll lay us in the bed, change our diapers, and let us die. Danny's promised. Danny's promised to come change my diaper.
Yeah. You might have changed mine.
That's right. That's right. Just as long as my kids don't have to do it. So progress began to momentum kept going. And so now we're at a point now where when Danny and Carl and others, we met with Ed Harries and his crew. I'm going to let Danny fill in the blanks here in just a minute. while at the same time, Mitch and his crew are advocating for net vets. So what should be a marathon, and probably still will be a marathon, is going to be maybe a half marathon, we're hoping. This thing is happening so quick, and everybody seems to be getting on board. We met with Alan Levine about net vets, and he was so excited about it that he's offered places, a place for them to be for just a little while, but he paid for them to have an office right next to my office, so they have a legitimate place to meet. So again, I would encourage you to have him come and speak. Has he given his presentation to you all yet? I don't think he has. Okay, you'll be fascinated by it. So this campus, if it works out right, will not only have the NetVet Center, about a 40 to 50,000 square foot facility. It'll have Tennessee Veterans Homes. It'll have a place for fishing, walking paths, pickleball courts, et cetera, et cetera. So when a veteran comes there, and also FedEx, who was run by a veteran, noticed us all standing in his cul-de-sac. He came out and said, "What are y'all doing?" We told him. He said, "I'll tell you what, if you can get them up here, and there'll be an addiction recovery center as well, we hope, then similar to what is at the Northeast Tennessee Recovery Center, then I'll hire every single one of them," because he's desperate for workers as well. So I'm gonna turn over to Danny, and I'm probably missing something. And as he starts to fumble through this, he'll hand the mic back to me, and I'll fill in the blanks for him. So
That's really fair. I know that. Well, as Miles told you on that day, he called me. We were getting ready to move forward on something, and I said, maybe I ought to hold because. And I called back and said, "Hey guys, just hold up a little bit before we move forward because I don't know. I just felt like there could be something here that I'm missing. Maybe there's something better to do." And so this sheet that we had, because we was hoping to show it on the screen, and that's okay. We may do with.
This is actually better. We can see it better.
Okay. Maybe so. I hadn't noticed the screen lately, but anyway, if you turn over the back, where it shows the property, there's a whole lot of moving parts to this thing, but I believe we'll find a way. So it looks like the way we tried to fit net vets on our property, and I thought that's what we could do, but it's so massively big, and the way they set it up, and it's really these facilities honestly are first class facilities, one level for these vets. The average, sorry, I'm not good with this. I don't do this very much. The average age of the vets that are in the other facilities throughout the state, the average age is 81 years old. It takes these guys in, and women too now. We're going to start seeing that more and more. But at any rate, the one thing that I think that was real key was that I could at least get net vets going, because I couldn't fit the veterans' homes on our property because of slope and so forth. I guess we could if you build $3 million retaining walls, we could have done that, but I'm not sure with the budget that we need to be doing that, so all this relies upon a couple of things, and everybody's been working well, some property trades, some other things. We started off by at least getting net vets in and having more locations for some of these facilities for these women and men, because listen, they're all over the place now. I mean, it's something we have to deal with, but just listening to the guy there at FedEx, he was a veteran himself. He said, "Look, if they're able to come work, we'll have some even part-time work that they can come over here and walk to our facility, and we will pay them $25 an hour." So it's about maybe reimagining the way we used to know we could just get in a car and travel years ago, but many of us that lived in co-camps or maybe a couple years older than me remembers a lot of times we need to be close to where we worked. And so there's more of that starting to happen again because the economy is just not going to support what some of us have got to experience. So being able to be imaginative how to use property to really put synergies there. Just like, for instance, if you go back, the way it would turn out, if you go back over to the main diagram showing the net vets building location, this really is a nice campus, I think, in that the net vets don't just go over there and stay by themselves. They get out on a mobility path and be able to go down and fish, see life, not just be in that facility. They get to see life every day. So there's a whole lot to this, and we're really hopeful that we'll be able to pull this off, and I really believe we will. Till it's an absolute no, we're gonna try to win this thing, because I didn't have to serve. I didn't have to do that, and I think we owe a debt of gratitude. People who did. And so, to me, it's like a great big opportunity, sort of like I got to do John Adams Elementary. What people don't know about John Adams Elementary was, everybody said, well, that was so smart for you to do that. Let me say this to you all, and believe me, if we hadn't done that, I wouldn't be talking to you today. What we gave away is what saved us, because that kept that slow. And remember, we were only doing 12 lots a year out there with no way to get 12, 14, 15. It wasn't a good time, you know, but now it's finished. And this year, our group will complete throughout the Tri-Cities, Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. We'll complete about 450 lots this year. Imagine going from 10, but one year it was 2 lots, you know, 2 houses in 09. And we survived that, but the only reason we survived, it wasn't us. We only survived because we gave away something. As I could hear my dad say, don't worry about what you give, worry about what you're gonna get. And that was a big thing that was worked out with some of you men that are here today, and women, and even more particularly, I'd have to say John Campbell. He helped push that thing even before he was a city manager. He helped me learn how to do things I didn't know how to do. And so I'm very thankful to John for being back behind that, pushing what people didn't believe in. Now, that's too far out. And for a long time, a lot of people did believe it's too far out. That school's full today, by the way. It's been full for many years. I think Ken, I can see Ken out there. He was a positive vote on it, and there may be somebody missing that vote positive vote, but when we gave that away, I think this is another opportunity for us just to play a small part in Spark that will get something done for a lot of people to follow many years after we're gone. And something that actually, the piece of property that you see where we built the houses on, that piece of property there, if you look at that, that was the property that the the Tennessee Homes for the Veterans rejected. We put 87 doors. They could have used that property and put it there 17 years ago. But it's going to take a lot of effort. We're going to have to raise funds regionally, but the state generally would probably do about 150 million if we can raise about 30 to 35 million. And this is a facility that creates jobs and those kind of things. So I don't know how much more I have to say about it. It's just a great opportunity. I believe we're going to find a way. Ask questions or whatever.
I was going to add to it. He mentioned $150 million, and Danny's right. We'd have to raise about 35% of that. Now, some of that can come from grants. Some of it comes from the state of Tennessee and regional government, et cetera. That's kind of the way that the governor allowed a lot of money to go to Arlington to build theirs. So we think we can get there, and if we can raise that, get that 40 million, whatever it is, then we'll go to the top of the line to get the rest of the money from the federal government. So, and I want to say this, Danny got choked up when he's talking about he didn't serve. He served, and so did Carla. Maybe not in the military, but they served and they're still serving. So we appreciate y'all. I was going to add too, I talked a little bit about Andy Dietrich. I want to tell you about these type stories are going to be happening all over the place as we fight this battle up in Unicoi and Greene and Carter counties. So the three of us and Paula Bocao and Frank Lett and who am I leaving out? Went up there Tuesday. Went up there Tuesday and we kind of put it together at the last minute. And so we got to go see the Carter County mayor and governor and our two state U.S. senators showed up right as we were arriving too. Got to see them. And then we went to Unicoi County to see the chamber exec up there. She had called me and was in tears because they had to cancel the Apple Festival, and Apple Festival, how they funded their chamber for the next 6 months. And she had already bought 1,000 t-shirts. And so I said, well, I don't know how we're going to solve this, but we'll come see you soon. So we drove up there on Tuesday and went into her chamber, and she had 1,000 t-shirts, less than 1,000 to sell. And Andy Dietrich pulls out his credit card. And he said, do you have a credit card machine? She said, yes. He says, well, here, I'll buy all your t-shirts. So he bought $15,500 worth of t-shirts. Please remember this when you're coming car shopping. He didn't do it for that reason, but please remember it. I walked out the door and I said, damn, Andy, how much was it? He said, well, it was $15,500. So we drove up the next day. Bradley Hoover drove up there the next day, picked up all the t-shirts, and we're selling them. In fact, they're already sold. Eastman Credit Union, via Kelly Price, texted me that night. She bought every single one of them. So so the Unicoi County Chamber is going to get that money as well. So these type of stories are going to happen all throughout our region. Do I have any questions? I'm sorry, we've kind of rambled on. Yes, ma'am.
So I understand the veterans home.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what NetVets does that's different, because I don't think people are living there, are they?
No, I'm going to give you a shortened version of it
Okay.
because you really need to have Mitch come with his crew and tell you the details of it. And I'm not going to tell you my personal experience right now, but I would ask that you invite me back at some point because I want to talk to you about PTSD. Okay? I was 2 days ago I was officially diagnosed with it. I don't want to tell you the journey that got me there. It's very important. I hope it'll resonate with you all too. Anyway, Mitch, who's a Dobbins Bennett grad, went to school with Bob Fegans, my sister, moved back to downtown Kingsport with his wife. They're empty nesters now. Bought 2 lofts, as a matter of fact, downtown. And he pitched this idea of NetVets to me, and I didn't understand it at first, but there's one in Greenville, South Carolina, one in San Antonio that they want to model that after. But the idea is when a vet has a need, whether they just moved here or they're still here, they can go into this building if they need somebody to talk to them about mental health or addiction or going back to Northeast State or going to TCAT or just want to get a workout or whatever. All those services are right there, a veteran services office, just to get them started. And they may have to go somewhere else because what's happening now is a veteran goes to one place and they're told they have to go to another place and have to go to another place to get all these services. So that's the idea. That's the shortened version of it. But if you'll have them come and talk to you about it, I think it'd be.
That's good. That helps.
Are you going to say something?
I was just going to say that it's really, I think, neat because when I got to hear the guys from North Carolina and the lady from South Carolina, they came up and met. I'm telling you, they were fantastic. What these people have learned over the last 14 years of capturing different things that guys just can't find because there's so many resources. They hit dead ends and then they quit. But they can go there. They're hoping that it's got this, like we got that. We know how this thing works. And I really believe when I got to watch them 2 weeks ago when they came to the chamber, I was extremely impressed with that group and what they knew, how to really help people. So they're going to give us in about a year, or give NetVets in about a year or two, what it's taken them about 17 to 18 years to do and work together. And believe me, they were extremely good. So I'm glad it's going to be a nice handoff.
Thank you. We're getting a hook.
No, you got one
Yes,
more?
sir.
Go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the ratio of number of vets to the population in Sullivan County is the highest in the state.
I think that's correct. And actually, Travis Featherstone, who will be with Mitch, will actually address that. And the numbers are remarkable. And if you think about if we get these things built, that population will increase even more. And they bring money with them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you know, you're a very wealthy man from being retired now. So.
No, not like favorites, actually.
Yes, sir.
What's the organization behind the Veterans Home? Is that a government or a nonprofit or what?
It is a state organization. That's what it's Tennessee Veterans Homes. But some of their money, once you've reached a certain point, will come from the federal government. But Ed Harris, and Keith Thompson can give you a good presentation about it, as can Ed Harris if we can get him up here sometime. We're planning on going tour the one in Cleveland. And you got to look them up. I mean, it's like a 5-star hotel. One of them, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just a Red Roof Inn, but it's nice. It's very nice. Anybody else? Thank you.
Next week, we will have Jason Mumpower here to give us an update about our state of the state, I guess. And I thought I would end the meeting with what I said at the Kiwanis night, since some of y'all were not there. But we have honored, throughout this year, the legacy of all the Kiwanians that came before us. And it's up to us to start this second century and build the future. So as we start on this journey of the second century, I need y'all to be re-energized and rededicated so we can have another wonderful year of serving the children of our community. So thank you for being here today. We are adjourned.